Again, reiterate how excited we are to have you here. Lesley Robinson is the inaugural director for the newly launched Kendra Scott Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Institute right here at the University of Texas at Austin. That institute supports a curricular and co-curricular effort to provide students with promising college to career pathways, especially women and creatives who are underrepresented in entrepreneurial roles. It's an exciting program, and we have an exciting speaker. So Lesley, thank you so much for making the time. We're really looking forward to this.
Thanks, Emil. I really appreciate the chance to talk about networking because it's something that I have slowly but surely feel like I've started to understand a little bit more how it works for me. So this is such a great opportunity to kind of share what I like to call promising practices for the power of networking and word of mouth. And I feel like if there was an alternative topic or another name for this, it would be build your network before you need it. And so I hope that with this Lunch and Learn series, y'all are learning some great new skills and tips and resources and connections to build a really strong network. So I am loving all of the introductions in the chat and seeing both internal UT friends and colleagues and also external. So I think that it's great that we've got such a mix already in this presentation. And just so y'all know, because I always appreciate knowing, before we get into the content, I will save this entire presentation as a PDF. So you don't have to worry about doing screenshots or taking notes unless that's how you stay engaged, but it will be available in the resources, as Emil had mentioned, so that I hope you can go back to it and really digest it after this. Also, happy National Walking Day. I don't know if anyone's walking and listening to this, but that's usually how I've been engaging with these Lunch and Learns. And so if that's what you're doing, power to you. It's a nice day. So it's before we get started, because I'm going to introduce myself a little bit more and kind of why I'm here talking to you about the topic of career back channels. But please also take the time to introduce yourself in the chat. I have a little template if it's what you want to use of your name, location, company, and then 2 poll questions. Poll question number 1 is, have you ever found a job through word of mouth? And poll question number 2 is, why are you here today? Is there a particular topic that you're most interested in learning about, whether it's mentorship or building community or networking? Because we are fast and furiously in the next hour going to touch on all of these. So I'm Lesley Robinson. I'm the inaugural director of the Kendra Scott Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Institute here at UT Austin. We are lovingly calling it the KSL Institute for short. And I am just in love with the mission of the Institute, which is to empower women to lead and encourage the world to follow. And so I've been at UT a little over a year now. I came February 2020, was on campus 5 weeks before everything shut down. So networking has looked a little different for me. I've definitely had to evolve. And, I feel like the word of the last year is pivot. And so I hope to also put in here kind of some promising practices on how to network and build community, both in person, because I feel like we're getting back to that new next normal, and also virtually in the virtual world, as we've had to clunkily figure out in the past year. So thanks everyone for still persisting in the pro. I'm still participating in the poll. I'm watching and seeing that definitely people are wanting to know more about mentorship and networking. And so we will get on with the content. Before I move to the next slide, I did also just want to mention that my answers to poll chat number 1 is that, yes, I've actually found a job through word of mouth, and that is the current position I'm at UT. And it was not something that I was actively looking for. It's not something that I was even aware of the opportunity. I actually had built such a strong network who knew my strengths, knew my background, knew what I was striving to be next in my career. And so when the opportunity to lead and run the Kendra Scott Well Institute presented itself, I had about 4 people in my network reach out to me and say, have you heard about this job? You'd be perfect for this job. I can't think of anyone else but you for this job. And so that's never happened to me before. So I wanted to kind of share how that came about, but also just the power of having people know who you are and what your goals are, and also, having their eyes and ears open for any opportunities that they can think of you about, and then passing those on. So that's powerful in itself, is having that network that in the background, in the periphery, is looking out for you and seeing you in opportunities that you wouldn't even know about yourself. And then I personally love mentorship. So it's definitely a topic that I speak on. If you've heard me do some presentations in the past, some of this content might be the same, but I also think there might be a spin on just the virtual component on it. All right, I'm going to move on. So when I woke up, I check LinkedIn every morning. It's just part of my morning routine. And there was this graphic, and I thought it was absolutely perfect for today. So it is the career projection that I think most people look like, and especially students, in terms of this linear experience that you go to school and then you become an executive, and however many years it takes to get there. And how efficient and streamlined you can be. But also, I think, the bottom is how it can also look like. And this has for sure been absolutely true of my career. And the power of this, and as I mentioned before, I think if you were to call this session another topic, it would be build your network before you need it. It's that each one of these plots on this curvy, swirly line could be a conversation, could be a connection, could be a informational interview, could be a Slack conversation, could be a text message, could be, a buffet line partner. And so it's really important to know that this is kind of what then the real career trajectory looks like, or could look like for you, and that's okay. In fact, that's kind of the beauty of this, is that, if we work from age 20 until retirement, that's about 40 plus years of people and networking sessions and conferences and events just like this, that people could be, the next ticket to what it is that you want to, be, or maybe you don't know what you want to be. So anyway, I put this here because I think it's a great reminder that this is not easy, and it's quite messy, but that's okay, because I think that there's a lot of beauty in that. So we're going to talk about Backchannels, mentorship, obviously building community, and networking promising practices. And I always put like a little disclaimer that I use a lot of my own promising practices. So I don't consider them best practices, but just things that have worked for me that I hope will work for you too, or might give you different perspective. And so there's always that asterisk disclaimer, according to Lesley, throughout most of this. But I have heard others who have had great success and have kind of looked at networking a little bit differently, because as much as I like to think I'm an extrovert, it's actually incredibly hard to walk into a room of people you don't know, strike up a conversation, and then also find common ground, and then have a call to action or follow up after that. So I hope that you'll take some away from the way that I've at least navigated networking. So Backchannels. Who does it? What is it? Why is it important? And how does it, I've got my chat in the way, how does it work? So Backchannels, and I think at the most simplest form, and in terms of why we named this session Backchannels, the power of networking and word of mouth, is that it serves as unofficial reference checks on candidates. And those can be by multiple people, but usually it's from hiring managers who are just wanting to scope out and put feelers on candidates that they might be interested in, that might know some of the same people that they know. It provides unofficial and external view of the candidate. And so we'll talk a little bit later about kind of the pros and cons of that. But it's, it's at the most basic level, it's validation. So it's trying to validate with people people you trust, maybe an inner circle, who it is that's coming across your radar and why you should know. And I always say, because I have a dog, but also I hope that Amazon doesn't come within this next hour, because you'll really know that I have a dog. But I like to say it's kind of putting your ears up and perking and seeing who is wanting to know you more, and especially if you are actively on the job hunt. So what this looks like in real life is if you have LinkedIn, for example, and I subscribe to the pro version, I like to know who's looking at my LinkedIn profile. But especially if I am actively searching and applying for jobs, it's really interesting to see you progress in an application process by who's looking at your profile. And especially if it's hiring managers or just people from companies that you're applying to, it's a very informal way. And I think it serves definitely as its own back channel, or just, the Google searching of who you are. So that is, back channel in the virtual world. Back channel, like reference checking looks like in real life, is when people come up to you and they're like, hey, why was this person asking about you? Or tell me like what's going on, that people are starting to see if I know you or what I know about you. And hopefully those people who are being asked if they know you or what they know about you or the opinions are following up with you and letting you know that, because that was definitely the case for this most recent job that I had. Is I had 4 people tell me about the position, and then I also had 5 people tell me, hey, why is this person asking about you? What's going on? But also, like, how can I support you? Are you looking for a job, or is there an opportunity? So that's what it looks like, I feel like, in the virtual with LinkedIn and like Google searching, but also in real life, it's people just like taking tabs on you. So I quickly in the chat, tell me, like, in terms of back channeling, do you think it's fair? And especially, do you think it's fair to back channel someone, or to validate, or to ask people who might know you or a candidate from 5 years ago? Because I definitely have my opinions on this. What do y'all think? Is it fair? Yes, no, it depends. It depends. Probably not. It depends. I don't know about you, but me 5 years ago, I was not the career professional that I am today. I actually was in a completely different career. I worked in higher education, but specifically in international education. So if someone were to validate me in my international education career, it would have looked very differently than, applying for director of women's entrepreneurial leadership. So I think that, yeah, 5 years is a long time. It definitely is. So I think what fair practice would be is, like, it's kind of sort of not really, but they happen and they're going to happen. I think I saw someone say, like, we're all human nature. So I think the best thing is be prepared, and be prepared that, back channeling is just, it is what it is. And I think that people who rely on their inner circle, or people who know you from previous positions or, previous employers, are really missing out on understanding how you've evolved or grown. And so I think if you are doing back channeling on someone, I think that there's a golden rule in that anything 3+ years that you don't know that person any longer than that should be considered irrelevant, because I think you've got to give the benefit of the doubt that someone has grown and had different leadership, and also had learned different skill sets, and have had different professional development, or have had mentorship and have really evolved. So I think that there, for sure, some pros and cons for back channeling, but also, like, trust your hiring process and not just your inner circle, in terms of, hiring process is going to equal equity with all candidates that are coming. So I think that if I were to say something, it's also, if you're going to back channel someone, like, 3+ years is hopefully irrelevant, and you would, just take it to heart, but not take it to consideration. And then same for you. I'd hope that someone who was giving an opinion about you would also kind of put that disclaimer that, well, this was 3+ years later. So I think then, in moving forward with this presentation, how to build a strong back channel, so that if somebody is reference checking you or validating you, how can you be the strongest, like, opinion or reference for that person? And I think that it comes with mentorship, building community, and networking. So in terms of mentorship, it's definitely something that I strongly believe in. I think that mentorship programs are hit or miss. I think that if you can take control of who mentors should be in your life, it should be your call, and it should be not such like a matchmaker thing. I have students who are just so eager to have mentors, and have set up these matrix and like different formulas on how to do matchmaking to get the best mentor. And it just, those relationships haven't worked out. And so it's something that we're definitely looking at from the student level as well. But I think that, I always get the question, like, how do you find a mentor? And I think it really comes down to finding someone that you admire or who is in a position that you strive to or want to excel to have. And then, just start asking them questions, have it basically start out as an informal interview. So in this virtual world, I think that there's, different things that we can do to have good mentorship. But at the most basic level, I think good mentorship is just personal development between a more experienced or more knowledgeable person with someone who is less experienced or knowledgeable. Also, I think in terms of like the company level and having a mentorship program, it definitely increases diversity inclusion goals and also, closes the opportunity gap and also retains staff. We know that staff really are looking on ways to get engaged and invested in their jobs and their companies, and mentorship is a great way to do that. So I think that there's some pros for both the mentee and the mentor, and I think that you have to look at it in terms of like mutually beneficial, but obviously for the mentee, it's going to be both personal and professional growth, and then also, higher job satisfaction and investment in the company. And then for the mentee, it's just new perspective and fresh perspective, especially if you are mentoring someone who is new in their career, new in your field. It might offer great perspective on the industry that you're in that you might not have gotten anyway. And also, it's just a good give back. I think that there's good karma in taking what you know and giving it back to someone. So I do think that there's great karma in being both a mentor, but also a really engaged mentee. So according to me, I told you there's little disclaimers everywhere in terms of like my experiences with these topics, but I think good mentorship equals the willingness and capability of both parties to support growth, ask questions, challenge assumptions, and disagree, all while intentionally engaging with one another. So it also can't just be surface level. It can't all just be positive. It has to be where you have a trusted person who can give you, bird's eye view of what they're seeing, or really kind of talk some truth into maybe experiences, or like I say, managing expectations. I think that there's a lot of value in someone who can just manage expectations in terms of different careers or in terms of, different jobs or opportunities that you're looking forward to. So mentorship, my advice is that you need these 6 types of people in your life. So the first and second person are mentors versus coaches. So obviously we've talked about mentors and, the value of mentors and especially good mentorship, but also coaches. So what is the difference between coaches and mentors? So mentors are going to be more concerned about the whole person. Coaches are going to be about the specific objective. It's going to be a little bit more formal and structured with coaches because they have that specific objective or goal that they're trying to have you reach. Whereas mentors is going to be like maybe it's a coffee, once a month, or maybe it's like once a year. It doesn't have like a start and end date. So it's definitely more of an informal relationship than a coach. So I think it's important to also name the different relationships that you should try to strive for to have in your life. Number 3 is going to be cheerleaders versus critics and challengers. So cheerleaders are your rah-rahs. They're the ones you go to. They give you the boost. They are the ones who are celebrating your wins, and you should always have cheerleaders. But equally important is the critics and the challengers, the ones who are going to give you, critiques from a really good place and not be afraid to tell you when you've messed up or that you've strayed away from maybe the mission or the objective or your goal or even your why. So I think that, this is also equally important to surround yourself with. And you can't just always have cheerleaders in your life. You also need to have someone who's going to tell it to you straight. Number 5 is going to be the devil's advocate. So this is the person who is always going to challenge your why and how to get you back to your why. In other words, it's your North Star. So it's someone who's going to keep you focused and really on the straight and narrow. And why is really, really important to me. It's something that I tell my students all the time, is that you need to know your why. You need to know your why, because that is going to be your good guy when making decisions, or it can also be your bad guy when making decisions, but it's going to keep you focused and moving towards what your goal is at the point. And I think it's the most important part of your growth. So if you don't know your why and you can't communicate what your why is, then I think that it's a great time to maybe take some perspective and try to define what that is, and then try to find a devil's advocate who believes in your why and can keep you focused on that, and again can be that guide for you. So with that, I think, the summary is that take the time to find your why, and will help you focus on what is important, how you're going to do it, who it is you need to meet to get where you need to go. So I'm very type A. I love the who, what, where, when, why, how. So in my mind, this was a really organized way in terms of people that you need in your life that will serve different purposes for the why, the what, the how, the who, and the where. And if you're counting, y'all remember I said there are 6 people. So there's still one person I haven't talked about that I think that you need to have in your life. In the chat, can anyone think who is missing? So we had the mentor, the coach, the cheerleader, the challenger, the devil's advocate. Tina says yourself. Anyone else think who's missing? I think yourself is actually really good. I might need to change this to 7 people. You should be your own advocate. Oh, I love Amanda said your mama. That's so true. My mom is my cheerleader. So if we were to actually put names to these roles, for sure, my mama is my cheerleader. Role model, excellent. Awesome. Well, I will show you who, in my opinion, according to Lesley, the 6th person should be, and that is a mentee. I mean, I think in terms of being a good mentee, you should be a mentor to someone back. So again, I mentioned that there was such great karma in giving and receiving, and that mentors and mentees have to be a mutually beneficial relationship. But just as you are maybe a mentee to someone, you also are giving back to them with new perspective and new fresh thoughts, and you can also serve in that role, or give back to someone who is in high school or is looking into going to college or is fresh in the field that you've been in for a few years. I think that there's always opportunity to serve in that mentor role. And I think some people, and especially students, don't realize that they actually, have something to give and knowledge and experience and perspective to mentees. And so we have very intentionally created a mentor-mentee program with high school students so that our students can learn how to be good mentors to their mentees, and then vice versa, that equals them being good mentees to their mentors. Wow, that was kind of confusing, but I hope y'all followed along with that. And I think that there are definitely some skills in terms of what you need to possess as a good mentee. So just as there's good mentorship, and it's you have to be coachable, you have to be specific and prepared in the relationship or the meeting or the intention that you have with your mentor. In fact, I like to empower my students to actively take on the role of mentee to help navigate and guide what it is that they want from the mentor. Because if they're not sure of what they want from that mentor relationship, they're not going to get it. So I actually think that there's more ownership on the mentee relationship than a mentor will provide. So those are the 6 people I think that you need to have in your life. And let's just take a minute, pause, think about it. Do you have all 6 in your life? Is anyone missing? And these roles and these people can come and go. And I think, the balance is having all 6. But honestly, I feel like if you could actively recruit for one of these people, I'm really looking for a critic challenger right now, especially in this new role and this new job. I have abundance of cheerleaders and coaches, but I really need that critic challenger. And I don't think it's as easy as recruiting and saying, hey, will you be my critic challenger? But I do think it's seeing who is raising their hand and who is, playing different roles or could play a different role, and then naming them in that. So I hope that that's valuable. I hope that y'all are maybe thinking about different people in your life who are filling those different roles, and that there are different roles to play in kind of the bigger picture of, taking inventory of your professional, but also your personal life and career. I'm going to pause. Are we good, Emil? Do we have any questions?
No questions right now, just, a lot of activity on the chat, which is great. I think you're
Okay.
covering a lot of territory.
Okay, great. P.S. I really love being the cheerleader. So if you need a cheerleader, I'm your hype girl. Okay, so building community. So I mentioned I really like the idea of promising practices and things that have worked to me. So these are some of the things I hope that you'll learn from and take away from. Well, I've got to move some of my windows because I've got all the text on the right-hand side. Okay, so according to Lesley, building community and what that looks like. Number one is drink a lot of matcha lattes. So I don't like coffee. I kind of like tea, but I really love matcha lattes. So when I moved to Austin 5 years ago, I made it a mission to try every matcha latte in Austin, but to try it with someone that I wanted to know or was kind of getting to know, and have them be informational interviews. And so it was like a fun game, and I got to try something or drink something that I really loved while exploring a new city and meeting new people. And so it just was a great game in my head for how to get out and ask people to have coffee with me or tea or whatever it was. And I need that. I am like all about gamification. So if you can give me a badge or an icon or check the box, then I will much more likely do it. So in my mind, this was exploring Austin and trying to find my favorite matcha latte. And guess what? Now I have 3 favorite matcha lattes and they are always in rotation, but I do think that that has been like a fun way for me to approach building community. Number 2 is know yourself, and then you'll know your leadership potential. So if you have not invested in what your strengths are, or I'm a huge proponent of, all the different assessments. And I know that there was a session earlier in this Lunch and Learn series about that, but take the time to know what you're good at, what you're great at. But I feel like the real superpower is in your weaknesses, and maybe what you need to work on are just like not you. And so take that time. There's, Strengths Finder. I am a huge StrengthsFinder fan. I have my students do it and my interns, and I really look at the dynamics of teams and where we are. I am your executor, like taskmaster. And so I very purposely surround myself with relationship builders, because I know that that's something that doesn't come naturally to me because I'm so task over people. So again, checking the box to go get matcha lattes versus, the original intent, which is to meet new people. So there's ways then that I think you can balance yourself and your strengths and your weaknesses if you take the time to know them. Number 3 is get inspiration from your inbox. So I have very carefully curated newsletters and authors and influencers that I've been really inspired by. Brene Brown being one of them, Thrive Global. I mean, those are the newsletters that I look forward to every morning. And just as I'm checking my LinkedIn, I also, as part of my morning routine, and reading, what's coming from some of the different newsletters. And that's where I get a lot of my inspiration or recommendations for podcasts or books. But it's because I have really curated and cultivated what is inspiring to me and what has spun off to inspiring other authors that I might never would have known about, or podcasts that I wouldn't have listened to. So I think that there's a lot to be said for what's actually hitting your inbox if you can figure out how to filter it correctly. Number 4 is look around instead of above. So I think that everyone is like focused on, who the boss is or who the boss's boss is. I also like to say grand boss or great grand bosses. But I think that there's so much value in your peers and your colleagues, because if you think about it, they don't have to be competition. They can be your cheerleaders and they can be your hype squad, and y'all can be pursuing the same career goals, but as a group and collectively. And I think that there's power in numbers, and especially, finding, the strengths and inspiration from your peers alongside you. There's also maybe, more availability and accessibility as well to those that are beside you, instead of maybe, thought leaders that are above you. Number 5 is always ask yourself what you want to be when you grow up. So just as I had mentioned in that second slide with the squiggly curve of the career, if you would have asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I wanted to be a bus driver. So that was the first thing I can remember saying that I wanted to be, was a bus driver. And then it was international education, anything. And then international education was like, okay, but but like what else is out there? And now it's become social impact and especially women's empowerment. And so I think that you always need to ask yourself and take inventory, because just as you're reading newsletters and listening to podcasts and going to sessions and conferences and really engaging with new people and thought and ideas, it should evolve and make you more excited for new things that you would never have considered before. So I think it's a great exercise to always ask yourself what you want to be when you grow up. Otherwise, I don't think you're doing life correctly. You should be evolving and be inspired along the way to try new things. I'm a huge advocate for new sights, new sounds, new smells, new tastes. So like that's what keeps me going. Number 6, connections and business cards are your friends, literally. So I know that business cards are kind of a dying art. And so I feel like you could also replace this with like LinkedIn connections. But if you've had a conversation with someone that you really like that person, keep note of who they are. And if it's at a conference that you go to again and again, reach out to them, say like, hey, do you want to do breakfast? Do you want to do lunch? Do you want to do dinner? Do you want to do coffee? And really get to know them outside of the business setting. And when I talk about them being friends, literally, is that just as I go to conferences and I feel like we're getting there back to real life, I want to explore the city where I'm in. And if it doesn't, if it has to be outside the conference hall, I want to book every breakfast, lunch, and dinner with someone new and exciting that maybe I want to get to know more. And so over 15 NAFSA conferences that I went to year in, year out, I had a standing happy hour date with a woman. And it just was this relationship that evolved, and it started from a business card exchange and then just following up because I thought that she was really cool and we were aligned in our mission and our values and our careers. So I say that because I think that you don't have to think about it just as business connections, but also as potential friendships too. Number 7 is don't let the thank you card die. Please don't let the thank you card die. I have printed thank you cards in all of my desk and all of my purses and bags. And I try to really be intentional about writing 1 to 3 a week and carrying stamps with me and putting them in the post. Especially today, I think it makes you really stand out and just means so much more when you can be more intentional about the thank you. And I have people who are like, I loved your thank you card. I haven't gotten one in years. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's not good. Number 8 is little small things add up. So when I mentioned like, I am your hype girl and your cheerleader, I will like, heart, share, retweet, nudge, react, poke. I think I got all of them there. But those little things add up, and someone just continuously seeing you liking a post or hearting a post or resharing a post, it just lets them know like that they've got a fan out there. And I think that at the most basic level, you can be a cheerleader. And this is a really easy way to do it. Number 9 is be a connector and share your network equals good karma. So if you meet someone and maybe that connection doesn't make sense for you, do not leave that connection with like, oh, well, like that didn't make sense for me. But think about like, well, I actually think you should know this person and I will make an intro, because sharing your network, again, will come back to you. And there are 3 super ultra connectors in my life who I admire greatly because they share their network and are always thinking about who in the network might benefit from the people that they're meeting. And that is a skill that I strive to have. And it doesn't come naturally to me, but I try to think about every interaction, not just personally and like beneficial to Lesley Robinson, but also how can it maybe benefit someone else in my network, and do that. And number 10 is it's all in the profile card. So keep and nurture them. Again, like take some time and go back. I always had like a stack of business cards that I would go back to on like a weekly basis, and would be, or not a weekly, but like, a quarterly basis, or especially before a conference, and just like, hey, I was thinking about you. Hey, just wanted to follow up. Hey, I know that you started a new job. And it was just like a really nice way to take the one from the top and move it to the bottom. And then like, I would try to, rotate them between like 1 to 2 times a year, but it just was like a very curated business card. And if I had a down moment or, a lunch break or, a meeting that was canceled, I would write a thank you card, or I would try to reconnect with that profile or that card. So those are just some promising practices that have worked for me. in building community, and they're hard and they're maybe not easy, but they're at least, have been creative solutions to like the daunting task of networking. So networking, I know everyone has different opinions and feels and comfort levels with it. So I like to say, but wait, there's more, because I think that as much as I was calling those 10 previous promising practices building community, they could have also very easily been called networking. So they're one and the same to me. And before I get into networking, I'm just going to check time and just check and see how we're doing on Q&A, because I know we've got 10 minutes. So I feel good about where we're at with the content.
Yeah, you're doing great. There are no Q&As, so yeah.
Okay.
You're doing good.
Cool. All right. So networking. So bear with me, because these are going to be like 20 things that maybe you can try, or maybe you can take 5 from the 20, or 1, but hopefully it's just new perspective for you. Okay. So networking. So number 1 is reaching out to at least 5 new connections a week. So that would equal 1 a day. It's like, well, how do I find 5 new connections, especially in COVID? Well, here's how I do it. And I call it my LinkedIn rule of 35. So LinkedIn always has recommended suggestions or connections. And if there's a connection that has more than 35 shared connections, that's enough validation for me that maybe I should connect with them. And so I try to add all new LinkedIn connections that have over 35 shared connections. And that has, 1, blown up my LinkedIn community, but 2, really put in my newsfeed some different new awesome perspectives and articles and opportunities that I wouldn't have gotten if I hadn't, just started to validate new unknown LinkedIn recommended connections. Number 3 is be more than your resume. So obviously there's the big debate. And I know that, this was the first session of the Lunch and Learn was, how to be efficient with resume, 1 page versus 2 pages. There's lots of opinions. There's lots of templates. There's lots of schools of thought on the formatting and the templates. But I think what I'm trying to convey here is that don't stick to 1 page or your resume when you're networking. There's so many other ways that you can find common ground with people, whether it's organizations or languages you speak. And, those might have made the cut on your resume or they might not have. But I think, stick away from professional, educational, skill set awards and think about hobbies and interests and what makes you you, and try to find common ground that way too, especially when you're in a professional networking setting. What's going to make you memorable? What's going to make you unique? What are they going to think of when they hear Lesley Robinson? Number 4 is master the forwardable email. So this is something that I've gotten really good at. If there's someone I want to know who knows someone that I want to know, I will write the email for that person I know to forward to the person I want to know. So do the work for them. Make it as easy as possible for someone to make the connection to you. This can be like a LinkedIn message, or this can be an email. But I will say, Susie, hey, I see that you know Bill. I'd really like to know Bill for this. Below, I would appreciate if you could copy paste and send this to him. If not, totally understand, but would really appreciate it if it works. And make it personable. Do not make it generic. So again, just do the work for someone to make that connection. And again, talk about validation. It's someone in Bill's network that is making the connection from Susie. And that's also a way of backchanneling, if you will. Number 5 is create your personal brand value statement, also known as your elevator pitch. So if you can't sum up who you are, what you do, what you believe in, your why, that thing that's going to make someone's ears perk up in terms of what the interest is, then you need to work on that. And this is what you use when you're in an elevator with someone. This is what you use when you are entering a room and don't know anyone. This is the person next to you at the buffet. This is the person, buffet sounds so weird right now. I can't even imagine going to a buffet right now. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Or, 6 feet apart in a line. This is just how you convey in a very concise and efficient way who you are, where you come from, what you do, whatever is important to you And I've got some examples if we have time later for what this might look like or sound like, but it's your elevator pitch. Number 6 is technology as a relationship builder. There are a lot of different tools out there right now, some that are working great, some that I will be so happy to see go away. But I think that there's a lot to be said for different tools to network and build community. And I think that, better for worse, this is going to be, the next new normal. And I think that we need to embrace some of those tools. And so I've got a list, if we've got time, to kind of tell you the ones that I'm loving. Number 7 is, again, get personal, don't be generic, the demise of LinkedIn messaging. I love LinkedIn messaging, but if you send me a generic copy paste message, I'm not going to respond. I'm going to delete it. I need to know, number 8, what the call to action is with each interaction, besides just a general, hey, I'm so glad you joined my network. And that doesn't mean anything. I want to know why they wanted to connect with me. And it goes back to that rule of 35. So as I'm adding people who have 35, hey, I just wanted to say, I see that we have over 35 people in common. I also used to work at Princeton, or I work at UT, or, hey, I see that you're part of this org. Oh, we know this same person. Just thought it might be a nice connection and love to follow you and see what's going on. And let me know if you want to do coffee or an informational interview. And some people respond to it and some people don't. But I always also have a Calendly link available if somebody does respond back to do a virtual coffee. And so I think that that's the call to action, is if somebody does respond hey, I'm so glad to know you. Let's set up a virtual coffee. Here's my Calendly link if it's easy for you. And it might be someone you've never met before. And it might be, that next connection that gets you the job, or next connection who gets you the recommendation to the real estate broker, who gets you the house that you never thought you'd get, because Austin real estate is so crazy. So you never know how any of this is going to end up, except for it's all about the squiggly line in terms of your career networking. And then number 9, and I always get nervous when I get to number 9, but it's because I have to say it, it's be Googleable. Be Googleable. So you haven't Googled yourself lately. You should do that, because that's always a good practice to see what comes up. But also what's more important is if nothing comes up, or if nothing relevant comes up. That's also a huge call to action for you to work on your search in Google. And if you have a really common name, how is it that someone can find you? So if I meet you at a networking and reception, and I can think okay, Lesley Robinson, UT, she grew up in Tulsa. If you can just give someone a little bit more of a Googleable search bar, then that's helpful in terms of then how they can get to your LinkedIn or how they can get back to you. So I think it's always a good exercise, but I think the more important exercise is if you can't find you, then no one else is going to be able to find you either. And then number 10 is tame your imposter syndrome. So this is something that students are always asking me about, is imposter syndrome. And it's something that I can go into a little bit later, but it's there, it happens, it rears its ugly head when we least expect it. It's all about confidence building. And I've got some tips and tricks for it, but I think the biggest thing is to name it, to be okay, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling like an imposter? What is happening to make me lose confidence in this situation, or feel like I don't belong, or have that sense of belonging? So I think that, naming it and recognizing that almost everyone goes through imposter syndrome. Heck, I still go through it a lot, but in more academic settings, in terms of research and trying to be an expert on a certain matter, things of that sort, or trying to be the knowledgeable one in the room on, what my dissertation topic is right now for my PhD. It's a real thing, but I think it's a normal thing. So we need to normalize too, that there's confidence building that needs to happen in networking, and that everybody you're meeting with and interacting with has had imposter syndrome, is having, or will have imposter syndrome. So it's just not awesome. So I'm looking, we've got 10 minutes left, which is so great, because I wanted to pause, have pulse of everything that we've gone over, and then also see if there's anything that y'all want to hear more about, especially in those promising practices of building community and networking. So I think, Emil, we've got a poll. If you guys want to learn more, I'm happy to dig deeper into some of these, or to take Q&A in the chat, or just call it good and get back to our lives on this Wednesday. So happy hump day as well, and spending your lunch with me. But I'm going to wait and kind of see how this all goes. Oh, great. We've got some good feedback.
We're at about 50%, so I'm going to keep it rolling for a while.
Okay.
There's a lot of options here for folks.
I mean, there's some competition, but it looks like there's a really clear-ish winner with personal brand value, more than your resume, and technology as a relationship builder. Okay, so let's do.
I'm gonna let it's still going a little bit.
Okay.
They can't see what we're seeing.
Oh, okay.
So
okay, we'll give the play-by-play.
And then.
Okay,
and then
personal brand value is winning. Technology as a relationship builder is coming in second, and be more than your resume is third.
It's a bit of a horse race.
Yeah, actually, this is kind of fun. Okay.
We're at 72%, still have people come, making decisions. So let's give it like one more minute.
Okay. Only 4 people are saying all good, let's wrap early. So that makes me feel kind of good.
All right, I think we got all of them. So I'm going to end the poll, and then I'm going to publish it so they can see.
Okay. All right, the winner is personal brand value, which is great because this is actually the one that I think is the most valuable in terms of like having a tactical tool to enter a room or an elevator of strangers and what that might look like, feel like, sound like, and just to have in your pocket as like a go-to. So let's do personal brand value. And then if we've got a little bit more time, we'll do technology as a relationship builder. Okay. Do I just hit stop sharing, Emil, or will it go away?
Yeah, I'll do it. I'm actually downloading right now
okay.
the results so that we can share later, and then I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. So personal brand value. So what I like to say with personal brand value, as I mentioned, it's the elevator pitch, but it's your I am, I help, I understand, do, so that. And I've got a little nice formula here that you can just plug in the blanks or customize however you want. But I think the other thing with your personal brand value statement is that it's not what you do, where you're from, or who you know. And so I know wherever I've lived in the US, like being from Oklahoma, it's where are you from? And living in New Jersey, it's like, what do you do? And then I know that I hear like in DC or cities like that, it's like, who do you know? This is like your own way to introduce yourself and take ownership of how people interact with you. Josh was saying New Jersey in the house. So I feel like I've got to say Jersey strong. Okay,
hey, Lesley, there are a couple of questions. You want to try and take them now, or do you want to kind of get through your stuff first?
Let's just get through this little formula. Okay, so I am is who you are in the title you give yourself. So I am Lesley Robinson. I'm the director of the Kendra Scott Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Institute at the University of Texas at Austin, also known as the KSL Institute for short. And then I'll usually go hook 'em. But also like my whole family went to OU. So like that feels really like rebellious sometimes. So that's kind of usually what I say for my I am statement. I help is who do you add value to? And this is your audience. So if y'all listen to my intro at the very beginning, it was very much based on this formula. It was like, I love our mission at the KSL Institute to empower women to lead and encourage the world to follow. So that is what I help, is I help students in the next generation of courageous and creative female leaders. So that is how I personally respond to the I help. I understand do is how you add value to your audience. And so like for me, it depends on, who the audience is. But if it's students, it is I help you find beauty in failure and also encourage entrepreneurial mindset so that you will be, courageous, creative female leaders. And then and that's the type of transformation your audience should expect. And for me, that's like the next generation of female leaders. So there's a lot of different ways that I say this, but that tends to be like the formula that I use. So if y'all see here, you can say like, I use my blank and blank for, I am known for blank, using whatever trait by providing. Like you can do it this way, or let me see if do I have my example on the next slide? I might not. No, but the other nice thing about this is I have filled out this formula exactly, and that has been a bio that I've sent for sessions, or it's my profile bio on my LinkedIn, or it's maybe what I use as my forwardable email that I ask someone. So there's multiple uses for having this personal brand value statement that you can customize along the way, but it's so convenient to have. And I have a Google Doc of like my super long bio and my 150 word bio and my personal brand bio and my women focused bio. And I have like, like higher education bio. So there's a lot of different ways that if you just take the time to curate this and know who your audience is, you can give that personal brand value statement and have it feel so natural. And not so awkward. So practice it, and especially, until it becomes comfortable. And I think that there's little things that make it unique too. So if I was in New Jersey, I always said howdy, and people like howdy, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm from Oklahoma. That's friendly for hello, and so that also made me stand out. So again, if they're just Google me, Lesley Robinson, Tulsa, Oklahoma, they would get to me. Or, the Hookem, or my whole family went to OU, that usually gets a giggle. So there's like certain things that you can input that have your personality come out that will make people think of you in a different way. So anyway, that's my quick little spiel on personal brand value statement. But yeah, Emil, I'm seeing the two Q&As, but I can't pull them up for some reason.
That's all right. It might be hidden behind another screen. I'll read the first one out loud. The first one says, thoughts on having a personal website?
Love it. I love personal websites. If you are going to invest in keeping it up to date and keeping it up to date.
Yeah, if you're going to do it, do it.
Yeah, if you're going to do it right. But also, I think that there's a lot of value in investing in someone to help you do it, or review it, or having a graphic design artist, somebody help you design it if that's not your strength. But for me, my LinkedIn is where I direct people to if I want them to know more about me. I really invest in my LinkedIn profile, and I put up like this presentation will go up there, and it serves as its own portfolio for me, because I'm not someone who's going to invest in keeping a website up myself. So my LinkedIn is where I have, because they have the tools and the tricks and the like attachments to make it portfolio like for me.
Good. And the last question here is, can age be an issue when accessing a mentor for the over 40? So for people who are over 40, can age be an issue?
No, I hope not. No. I mean, I think, it shouldn't be. And I think that there's a lot of value in looking at experience versus age, and not being biased towards someone based off of their age. So I'm probably a lot older than a lot of you think. So I look very young, and I know that a lot of people have, discredited me or haven't like looked at the career that I've had in the same way, because they just don't think that I look as old as I am. And I think you just, you find the value that you bring away from your age, away from any of the identities that you have. And I think that that's where like a LinkedIn profile or a website or something that can show your portfolio, your experience in a very, visual or robust way would be also really helpful. But I think also like the give back too, right? Like think about it in terms of like giving back to younger mentees, or asking, mentors that are more advanced in their career, more experienced in their career, based off of length of career, not age in the industry. I think that's.
Yeah, or type of experience. I mean, you might have somebody who's very young, but has a unique experience to call on. And of course, there are people who have been out of a formal professional career for a number of years, and are starting a new career. And so I don't think age is should be a factor in mentorships at all.
Yep, I totally agree. Everyone brings something to the table. And if you feel like you're not learning anything, then you need to change your perspective, because new perspective is the perspective you need.
Yeah. Well, those are all the questions we have.
Okay. This is great. Happy lunch, y'all.
Thank you so much, Lesley. This is fantastic. There are a bunch of links in the chat, everybody, to make sure you keep track of all of the events and opportunities going on. And again, fantastic participation and engagement. This has been great. And as I say, all of the sessions will be on our YouTube channel, also in the chat. And we're going to do this again sometime, maybe a similar subject or maybe a completely different subject. Lesley, thank you so much for your time.
Thank y'all. Everyone have a good one. I really appreciate it.
Bye-bye, everybody.